I'm Craig Button, and welcome to Stage and Manner. Well, I mean, so if you're doing like if you're doing international events, let's say the World Junior Tournament, right? I mean, for the most part, people don't know the players, so you have to know the players. Last week, I was in Winnipeg for two NHL games, and in between, I went to a Winnipeg Ice game. Friday night, I was in London to watch an OHL game. Saturday, I broadcast the Kingston Mississauga game on CBC. So that so you need to talk about the players, and the more you know about the players and watching them over time, you can talk about their strengths or weaknesses. We know the names of the players, and we can say, oh, that's a highly regarded player, but you got to go deeper than that. You got to go into detail about the players. That bleeds into the broadcast. The NHL broadcast, you have to know what's going on with the team. You have to watch. You have to know what the trends are. You have to know what a team has done over the last 3 or 4 games, because the fan base is completely wired in to their team. I take copious amounts of notes. I do, and I try to I organize it, on off my iPad, and I have them accessible. I have my scouting notes, I have my team notes, I have my analytic notes, and everything that goes with it. So there's no such thing as over preparation, and I try to tell anybody coming into the business, prepare. You can never be too prepared. You may not get all your stuff in, but it doesn't go to waste, because it just gets you into a state of preparation, and you may be able to use it next time. One of the things that I think that freshly minted broadcasters, in whatever the role, they do all this preparation, and then they think they got to get everything in that one broadcast. No, pick out the salient points, pick out the ones that are applicable to that game or that situation, and then dial into them. And you might have 50% of the work you did that never gets used that particular day, but it's prepared you. And so you have to watch, and you have to listen, and you have to say, oh, somebody said this, I'm going to go watch that, or I read this, and you go, okay, I have to follow up on that. If you're not attuned to what's going on in the game, in the business, depending on whatever you're doing, you're going to be ill prepared. You have to be staying on top of things all the time. How I would answer that is, I just find myself in a rhythm. I find myself that this is my day. This is what I'm doing. Like I don't like, my next on-air broadcast, I'm going to be doing 3 different things on Tuesday. I'll be doing the Leafs pregame. I'll be doing the Jets panel during the game, and I'll be doing That's Hockey. Those are 3 very different things that I'll be doing. And so when you start to talk about, I did the Hall of Fame on Friday, the ring presentation, right? So obviously, the people going into the Hall of Fame, we interviewed Kim St. Pierre. I'm lucky. I've seen a lot of women's international hockey over the years. I saw Kim St. Pierre play a lot of games. So my familiarity with her wasn't about trying to get up to speed on her now. I had the benefit of having watched her for years during her prime, when she was great. So now I can try to relate back and understand her background. Patrick Waugh was her favorite goalie, and ask questions along those lines, instead of what I would call a biographical questioning. Kim, take me back. How did you feel when you first made Team Canada? Right? Like, well, I know when she made it, but different times. And so I'm going to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. I did their games last week, so you follow in. They're playing Edmonton. So you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. What I did last week's going to help me this week, and what I do today might not help me exactly tomorrow, but it might help me Saturday. And so I don't think it's about saying I'm doing this specifically. The information is global. and you got to pick out what you want. I would almost call it like a buffet. And there's a lot of things on the buffet, but you decide, hey, this is what I want to have today. This is what I need today. This is what's going to nourish me today in my presentation for the broadcast. And I think it's the same way, but I don't really look and go, okay, I have this it's paying attention so that if things come up, and even things that I might not have thought about, that maybe wrong word, that I haven't anticipated come up, I know I'm prepared to answer them. And the one other thing I would say too, if you don't know, say I don't know. Because there's nothing worse if you're broadcasting and you try to go down a path of trying to talk about something you don't know. And I'm just saying, hey, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about it. I don't know. And it might be simple as something like, hey, you know what? Could you give me a comparison for Patrick Talon? Well, geez, I haven't thought about a comparison, but give me 10 minutes, right? And I'll do it, right? Don't be hesitant to do that instead of, throwing something out that might not be right. Because again, you want to be accurate in your information, but you also want to be as accurate as you possibly can in delivering different thoughts and ideas too. And I don't know, sometimes there's a difference between I don't know because you didn't prepare, and I don't know because, hey, that's something I hadn't given a lot, because you can't give thought to every single aspect. And I would always encourage, if you don't know, you don't know. You want to have, elevated different elevations in your delivery. Everything can't be about a goal. You want to lead to the goal to when it gets it, there's an exclamation point. It's the same thing in what we're doing here. If I'm just, always, on a big, more boisterous, enthusiastic, bent, then, you lose those moments when it really deserves to be enthusiastic. So I'm always working on trying to modulate. I'm always trying to work on, okay, there's a time to be measured. There's a time to be firm and measured. There's a time to raise your octave level and be firm and excited. There's times to, express disbelief and exasperation. But I can tell you, I continuously work on that all the time. There's times when I feel a lot better about it than other times, and I go, I could do that a little bit better. But it's something that I am aware of, and again, continue to work on, and hopefully, some days I make a little more progress than others, but I'm aware of it and trying to be better at it, as I continuously work at this. There's paths forward. I'd like to tell you there's one linear path, and if you just get on this is the way to go. There's a lot of different ways. I think getting involved in the production, understanding, what's going into a production, what's going on to the on-air, how on-air people handle themselves, gives you an impetus now to go and say, this is really what I want to do, and I want to hone my skill. It starts with content creation, getting feedback, get in front of a camera, get comfortable. The hardest thing to do when you want to be on air is going back and watching yourself. It's the hardest thing to do. And to this day, we all think, and trust me, we all think that what we've done on air, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Then you go back and watch it, and you go, I didn't even notice that. We know in our own heads and our own minds. Get comfortable in front of the camera. Get comfortable watching yourself. Get comfortable getting feedback. Be who you are and what you are, and the saying, be comfortable in your own skin, that comes clearly across. One of my huge pet peeves is when I did the draft for NBC, Dan Steer, who was the executive vice president, and we shared a similar mind with this. People would say, off the board. Off the board? Whose board? The only board that matters is the NHL team's board. My board doesn't matter. Nobody else's board. Well, how can you say it was off the board? Why? Because you weren't expecting it? You weren't anticipating it? You've already made a huge mistake when you start talking like that, in my view. That's how I look at it. So you better be able to talk about the player. You better be able to talk about how you think the player is going to fit in. And that's where we're back to scouting. I'm out in the rinks. I'm out watching. I'm there. I see 100 games a year of the young kids. And it's not just that year, it's leading into it. So I see the players and I do the video. I follow up and everything, right? Back to your audience. Who's the audience there? It's fans of the team and it's family and friends. I have never, ever once denigrated a pick, diminished a pick. I celebrate the pick. It's a graduation. And the audience is those fans, they're excited about the player. And so even if it's a surprise to them based on what they've read or heard, right? I want to say, here's what you're getting. Not every player is great. You better not start calling every player great either, because that's disingenuous. Be accurate. Tell everybody, hey, this is a really good player. Here's what he offers. Here's what he's done. Here's where his timeline is. Here's where I see him projecting, right? And celebrate the player. Because fans, family, and friends, and there should be family, friends, and fans are tuning into that. You're going to be negative about a player that just got drafted in the first round of the NHL draft. I think you made a big mistake if you go that route. And I've never done it. I never will. And back to the preparation. If you're prepared, there should be no pick that surprises you. I think everybody does get nervous. I'll be straightforward. If you're prepared, and honestly, I think I prepared tremendously well. So I think it's the unprepared that feel more nervous than the prepared. You can't step on the play-by-play person. They're the ones delivering the call. What you're doing is you're adding a little flavor to the call. And it's important. One of the things I like is let the play-by-play announcer get into the rhythm for the first 4 or 5 minutes. I don't want to speak. Not a lot's going. If something happens in the game, I'll speak. But there's not usually there's a flow that starts to build, right? And they need to get into it. So I told them that's what I was trying to do, and then I would try to pick up at that point in time. If something significant happens, I'll speak, but don't expect me early on in those whatever first 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Just let them go and let them be who they are so that they can get comfortable calling the game. Yes, I do. And, necessity becomes the mother of invention. And, the pandemic prevented us from doing a lot of different things. But what it allowed us to do was think of different ways to deliver. And it's not just in the sports media, it's in the entire media industry, right? And, even when you think about, workplace, presence as opposed to non-workplace, people now, because it's been so long, it wasn't one of those, okay, yeah, now we'll just go back to what it was. Now there is the real consideration and the rethinking of like, do we have to do it this way? There's a cost factor. If you can do things from home that where you don't have to travel and incur, costs, that's certainly something that helps. There's the time factor, more time, not navigating through traffic, trying to get to a place of work, right? When you can do the same work in your way. And I'll give you an example. So this year, I live in Calgary, and, I ski and love to ski cross country and downhill. But this year I bought a ski pass, a midweek ski pass at Lake Louise. And if I was traveling as much as I was in previous years, I wouldn't be able to use that. I wouldn't be able to get my money out of it. But now I can get up at 6:30 in the morning, be on the ski hill by 8:30, ski until 2:30, be home by 4:30. The game started at 5 and I'm ready to go to work. I can't do that if I'm on the road somewhere doing that. So, there's also the personal time that helps you. It helps you, with just a satisfaction of doing things personally. It helps you with mental health. And so when we see the way that technology has helped us progress, access, on Zoom, how would we've ever thought about doing Zoom interviews before? Now more people can be involved in the interview process. More people can be involved in asking questions, tapping into that. When I do the broad, like, I mean, I'm set up full studio capability. I'm right into the control room. They're right in my ear. I'm watching the return feed on what I'm doing. It's like I'm in my living room, but but it's no different than it's exact same thing as if I'm in the studio. I'm not with the people. I know the people. I love being with the people, and there will be times when that'll still exist. It just won't be to the same extent. So, and then the third thing I would say is content creation. I think that it's created great opportunity for content creation. And it used to be that you had to, okay, well, who's going to help me produce this? Well, it's got to be a big brick company. We got to go there. Now, because technology and how accessible it is, and how user friendly it is, and people that are interested, anybody can produce content. And what we're seeing is that good content is always in demand. So it doesn't matter where it comes from. Let's just get the best content and let's use it. So, in those three areas, I think this is significantly positive, for anybody interested in sports media or the media.